Now I'll have Mr. Paul Mezo.
Well, what I'll tell you is God bless the administrators and the teachers in the Sand Lake County area for hanging in there through an unusually bad economic time. As Mr. Broughton suggested here, actually testified to, is they're running at 50%. I challenge to see our state government do that. Our problems aren't throwing money at schools. We throw plenty of money at schools. Our problem, quite frankly, is we don't have commerce in this state anymore. No one can depend on a failing system to become successful at it. In other words, as schools lose the count of students there, lose the availability of funds to operate. They still have the same size institution. They have the same electric and water bills, and they're dealing with it with a lot less money, and they've survived. They've become economic at doing it. So what we really need to do is we need to eliminate Michigan's business tax, get the state back to work as quickly as possible.
If any of you folks in the audience tonight have any other questions to bring forward, if you would hold them up, we'll have someone collect them here this evening. Our next question, kind of a multi-part question, but has to do with foreclosures. It says, while home foreclosures are at an all-time high, many due to high taxes, how do you handle the disparity between the public sector pensions, healthcare plans versus the private sector? With that, we'll start with Mr. Paul Muxlow.
Well, I think we've addressed that question in a roundabout way a couple of times this evening. We certainly have to look at the budget. I'm in the real estate business, so I've had a good look at foreclosures. And it's kind of unusual after quite a few years of success, watching property sell for $19,000 and $25,000 and $45,000 and, you know, that type of situation. So we're going to have to adjust our economy, and we're going to have to get it going again. Everything leads back to a strong economy.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. John Hoffman.
Well, we have made promises that we have to keep to retired people, state workers and teachers to a large extent, but we don't have to keep making promises we can't keep. We're not going to be able to support these same retirements that we have now. All of the state workers, teachers included, need to go to a defined benefit plan. Excuse me, a defined contribution plan. They're all in a defined benefit plan now. Probably some of you are in that. That's a wonderful thing, but we cannot afford it. Right now we have over $40 billion of unfunded liabilities. That's money we're going to have to spend in the future that we don't have. We don't have it in trust accounts. We don't have it in savings accounts for our pensions and our health care plans. Our teachers' retirement, our teachers' medical benefits are paid out of pocket each year out of the general fund, and they are expanding rapidly. We have to bring both of those in line. Retirement to a defined contribution plan, and co-pays and significant contributions on the health care plans. Otherwise, we're not going to survive.
Yes, I'll repeat the question again. While home foreclosures are at an all-time high, many due to high taxes, how do you handle the disparity between public sector pensions, healthcare plans versus private sector? With that, I'll ask Mr. Eric Tubbs to come forward.
Well, certainly that is a problem. We have, I look at one of the school districts here, their health care plan costs $14,000 a year per teacher, whether it's a individual plan, a couple, or a family. In my business, my family plan is $9,000 a year, and so there's $5,000 difference, and my individual plan is about $4,500 a year. Now, I don't give the same health care as what they're getting in that school district. However, it is Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's excellent health care, and my employees are happy with it because they pay 25%. And every year when our healthcare costs go up, my employees come to me and say, what are we going to do this year to lower those healthcare costs? Because they have a vested interest in lower healthcare costs. And that's why it's important to have participation from the people that are getting these benefits.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Justin Faber.
Well, as we all know, foreclosures are at an all-time high. I was reading the paper in Port Huron. There's, I think, 50% of the homes in Port Huron are rental homes now. When the times got tough, in my heating business, one of the things that I'd done was I contracted to winterize repossessed homes. And I understand how the high taxes work and how it is, but also I think it starts back at home. Every one of these homes, I would always note, would always have a satellite dish, and I'm sure they had cell phones and amongst many other liberties that we do not need. I think when the times get hard, we need to start cutting and using ourselves. I don't think the government is always the answer. I think that assistance is exactly that. It's assistance. I think that you have to do what is right with yourself first. I don't think that we always need to be helping those, and when the federal government says that everyone needs to own a home, I don't personally believe that either. I don't think we got to kind of help these people along get into this mess. I think that now it's gone the direct the opposite way. Now there's too much regulation. So with that, I think we need to stay out of people's businesses, and if they fail, then that's on them.
Next, we'll have Mr. Al Broughton.
I can't think of anything worse than having to go through a home foreclosure. The answer to that is getting the economy going again and people back to work. Nobody wants to lose their home, but we need to get people back to work and working together. I am very much aware of the public pension system and the cost of that system. The problem we've talked with the legislators in the past as county superintendents, we know the costs are just skyrocketing there. For example, an aide who works 4 hours a day, as long as they work 10 years, is guaranteed medical for the rest of her life. It doesn't work. The pension fund that we get for our pension is funded. What's not funded is the health insurance portion of it, and that's jumping. Back when that was introduced, it was probably the $4,000 or $5,000 a year, not the $14,000 it is now. We have to cut back in those areas, and we can do that by co-pays and so forth. But it takes cooperation both with negotiations locally and with state legislatures to change the law so the product can be more economical.
Next, we'll have Mr. Alan Lelandowski.
When I was teaching at the St. Clair County Intervention Academy, I was the MEA president there for our local, and what we did at one point is we actually changed our insurance. We were a Mezo insurance, and we ended up becoming SAG. We did that because we knew it was going to help save RESA some money and that we wouldn't have to actually take a pay cut that year. And it was reality, and that's what a lot of teachers at some point in time is they're going to come to find that out. If they want to have a raise, they're going to have to pay more into their pension, or if they want to leave their pension alone, they're going to have to take a little less of a raise. And that's just the way things are going in Michigan. And I don't think most teachers will have a problem as long as it's bargained. I think it's when you start pushing it on them and saying you're going to have to do this, that's when you're going to find a lot of the problems from the teachers. But I think as long as it's bargained, and say even what the people have talked about, a state pool for all public employees, I think that's a great idea because you can save money that way, but I don't want to force people into that pool. I want them to bargain themselves into that pool and say, hey, you know, we're going to agree to this because we know it's going to help the school district in the long run, and we know it'll help us in the long run too by saving us money or allowing us to have a raise at some point in time.